So today I want to talk to you guys about something that has changed my life for the better in more ways than one. It's helped me financially. It's helped me grow as an individual. It's helped my relationships with other people and my relationship with myself, because I want to talk to you guys about how you talk to yourself, right? So there's multiple ways that we talk to ourselves, and we all have that internal monologue, and that actually dictates our actions. It dictates our behaviors in more ways than you may think. So today I want to kind of unpack that from my experience and sharing with you some ways that I've overcome it and some ways I'm still working through it, because you talk to yourself all the time. So you kind of have to do some maintenance to make sure you're following through, to make sure that you're being kind to yourself and that you're being honest with yourself. So what I want to talk about to start off is actually negative talk. If you haven't heard that term before, it means exactly what it sounds like, but it's how we talk to ourselves inside. It's not actually how we verbalize ourselves to others, but a matter of what's the internal monologue. How are we treating ourselves with our thoughts, right? So one example I can give you is, like, I've dropped my keys before and I've said to myself, like, what an idiot, right? And that's not being fair, because things happen. Gravity. I was actually juggling a lot physically. I had like a cup in my hand, I had my laptop, I had books, and I had my work keys. So I dropped my keys. And at the time, I was actually able to hear it inside and restate that differently. I was able to step back and say, wait, why did I say that to myself? And instead it was like this happens, silly things happen, and I can pick up my keys. Nothing in the world changes because of it. No one else looks at me negatively because I dropped my keys. I'm the only one doing that. And why am I doing that to myself? So sometimes the negative talk that we have, actually, I think more than not, the negative talk that we have comes from maybe our upbringing. Maybe it comes from positions of power, right? So whether it is your home life, whether it's your teachers, whether it's your doctor, right? There's someone who maybe had a certain viewpoint when they spoke with you that wasn't always kind. So sometimes what we do, and I know what I've done, is that I've actually owned their feelings, I've owned their verbal decision, right? So they may have said something to me in an unkind manner, and now as a child, I didn't understand that, and I took it as, this must be who I am. And without realizing it, it kind of followed me into adulthood. And that may be something that you can relate to, right? So, and sometimes that can be a positive thing, right? Because someone lifted you up from a young age that carries you through your life. Maybe you have a bit more confidence because of that. But today we're focusing on the areas where we can improve. So yes, the negative self-talk. So like when you say, I am something negative, look at the situation, just look at what it is and examine it, right? Just try to look at it from an outside lens and say, like, is that kind? Would you say that to somebody else? Would you say that to a coworker if they dropped their keys? Oh my gosh, you're such an idiot. No. So why would we allow ourselves to speak to ourselves that way? It's taking that moment and not feeling shame for it, but just acknowledging, this is something I've said. These are things I continue to say, and how can I reposition that? How can I look at it objectively? And how can I look at it with a sense of compassion? So another area that it's not negative self-talk in the same sense, but it is the victim mindset. So I can't overcome this because my parents haven't overcome it, because my coworkers are all doing the same thing, because this is just the way life is for people like me. By maintaining a victim mindset, you will never overcome, because you are taking away your own power. It's not to say that there aren't times where you literally aren't a victim of a situation in that moment, but when we can look back at it, how can I use that moment? In the victim mindset, I'm not talking about like literally in that moment when you've gone through something difficult, right? And someone did cause that to happen to you. Yes, in that moment, you are a victim of a crime, right? But whenever we're looking back at a situation, how can I regain my power? How can I use this unfortunate, traumatic experience to either help myself and or help others. And I know it can seem hard, and sometimes that's something you kind of have to work through with a therapist and everything, but when it comes to your mindset of how you see yourself again, how do I take back my agency? How do I have agency if it wasn't like ideally taken from me, but it was just this idea that everyone around me is broke, so therefore I'll always be broke, right? So that was something, again, that I had that mindset. Like when I was in college, everyone was taking out student loans and kind of acting like laissez-faire, like, oh yeah, everything's good. We'll just take this out and we'll put this on this card and blah, blah, blah. And it was just how things were, right? Everyone I knew kind of joked about, oh, I don't know if we'll ever be able to pay this back, or, it's just something that happens when you're in college. You have to be broke in college. You have to be in debt in college. So there were ways that people used to cope through it, and I was one of those people. But when I look back at some of the decisions I've made, I could have said, that it is maybe normal to have student loan debt, but it isn't where I want to be. How can I overcome this? How can I work my way through that, right? So what I've done is, obviously I can't go back and get rid of the student loans that way, but what I've done is I've taken ownership of that decision that I made. And unlike many people I know who are saying, oh, I'll die with student loan debt, or, it's not that big of a deal, I'm deciding to make that as part of my plan, part of my budget to take care of this, because I don't want that hanging over me. And I just don't think it's the right thing to do to say that, oh, when I die, either someone else will deal with it or it'll just kind of be washed out. That's not where I want to be, because you never know where life's going to take you. But also, I want to own where I am now. Challenge yourself into thinking about one thing that you think everyone does this, so therefore it's fine. And how can you take that ownership back? What can you do to say, I am going to do this, and what action can you take this week? Make one action, whether it's budgeting something into your finances, whether it is going into work a little bit early, whether it is having that conversation with your spouse that you've been putting off because you think this is just the way this relationship will be. You have ownership, you have the ability to change, and the ability to adapt is something that is really wonderful. And, it's a privilege to have some of the things that we have, right? So even just like being able to watch this YouTube video in itself is a privilege that we didn't have 30 years ago, right? So like the way that we can communicate, the way that we can receive information and share with each other has changed. So should your mentality, right? So you have the ability to earn more than you may think, right? Because you have to kind of work outside of that comfort zone. Because what it says when, oh, this is just average, this is just what everybody does, it takes away that onus, right? You're just like, okay, well, life will be what life will be. And it actually kind of makes it debilitating, as well as seems to, like, it's a false sense of comfort, right? There's no real comfort in that, but it's a blanket that says, okay, well, you're fine, everyone's doing it. But in reality, if you were fine, you wouldn't even be thinking about it, right? It wouldn't even be a conversation. So take away that victim mindset and take back some agency. All right, so you might say, okay, it seems all well and good, but how do I actually change how I view myself? How do I learn to look at things objectively? How do I learn to take back some agency, some control? And part of that is actually letting go. I know it may seem counterintuitive based on I just said, hey, take back your power, do all of this, but you have to let go of the past. You have to let go of this is the way I've always been. And you have to spend some time inside, right? You have to spend some time inside your brain. You have to spend some time relaxing and being able to give yourself grace and space. So I suggest actually trying meditation. So for me, meditation usually takes about 10 minutes out of my day. And I happen to use the Calm app. They're not a sponsor, but I like them. I also use a YouTube video sometimes if I want to do a body scan. I'll put that in the description below, and I'll also link that into a comment and everything so you can see it for yourself. But if you haven't meditated before, you don't have to sit in the lotus position. You don't have to have on the perfect outfit. You don't have to lay on a yoga mat. Like there's so many different ways to meditate. I suggest starting off with a scripted meditation because it allows you a framework for something that you don't have. In addition to actually using that framework, I suggest using a journal, and I have a journal here that I'm super proud of that I created. And this journal actually helps walk you through 30 days of your meditation. It talks about how are you feeling. It gives you some space to write some mantras. It gives you some space to reflect on where you are. Because if you don't have a framework for meditation, then things will probably fall apart. If you don't have a way to write things down, how you're feeling and how you change, you may not even realize the significance of sitting down for 5 or 10 minutes a day to focus on yourself. I mean, it's symbolically important, but when you use the meditation journal, you're able to write down how you're feeling before the meditation and being able to take some of that into your day, right? So when I'm feeling X, Y, and Z way, this is a way I can come back to my body. In my meditation today, maybe we focus on breath work. Maybe we focus on paying attention to other senses, right? So in this 30-day meditation journal, it provides you that space that you really need to come back to yourself. So if you haven't meditated, or it's been a while since you've meditated, check out my journal. It's pretty awesome. I have a lot of people who are saying the journal for them is something that they use regularly, and they share this with friends. So if you have someone, maybe you meditate, but there's someone in your life who you think would benefit from it, support, check it out. Spending 10 minutes alone by yourself, if you're saying, well, I don't have time for that, then the chances are you're making time for other things that are actually more negative than helpful. Maybe you're spending 10 minutes a day ruminating, right? Maybe you're spending 10 minutes a day on that negative self-talk without realizing it's actually slowing you down. So take that time, invest in yourselves, invest in this journal, invest in changing how you view yourself, because if I view myself with a positive light, then I can change the world a little bit. I can bring that positive light into others. So come back to yourself, right? So negative self-talk is something that can get in our way of being compassionate to ourselves. And honestly, it can stop us from being compassionate to others. And it can change how we behave in every relationship. But the most important relationship to start off with is the relationship that you have with yourself. So get out of the victim mindset, get out of the negative self-talk, get into meditation, and join us on this journey. So this channel is only and solely about how do we become a little bit better each and every day. So if you're looking forward for helpful, practical tips, if you're looking for ways to connect with yourself, to reset, we reset regularly. So come back and check us out. Join us on this journey because you are worth it.